Whew. Oh, hello there. Hi. Hold on a second. This is weird. The camera there, and I can see myself. That sounds weird, doesn't it? I hope you can hear me. This is all new to me. I just want to try it out. I'm sure no one is watching. It's a common occurrence. I'm used to it. But this is fun. Yeah, it's neat. I have no idea what I'm gonna do, but oh, it's great. Now I finally know how to do a live thing, hangout, what have you. So, shit, what am I going to talk about? This is why I have this great goatee hair. I can just go to this and go, yes, what to talk about indeed, yes. Well, I guess, how should I do this? I know. This is a random topic. It's been a few years since I should have actually discussed this, but I don't know why I'm discussing it now, but I'm going to discuss it anyways. So, I think that a certain director, because I'm going to talk about some films for no reason, it's so different. Like, so many people, actually, fuck it, everyone talks about films all over. This isn't new. But I'm not, I don't even know what I'm doing, so give me a break. Um, where was I? Yes, I wanted to discuss about a certain director that I think is shit, a hack that somehow gets praised for being greater than he actually is. So that would be Christopher Nolan. Yeah, and I'm going to explain to you why I believe he's a hack. And it's an opinion, so you don't have to agree with me at all. You love the guy, that's fine. That's your opinion. And also, I'm not trying to get in this whole DC Marvel debacle here. Okay, I've grown up with both Marvel and DC since I was a kid. Literally, as a kid, I watched Teen Titans. That was like one of the animated superhero shows I watched as a kid. And at the same time, there's like Spider-Man. So, point is, I'm not getting in a debate between the two because I like both uh, comic book companies, if you will. And I don't know, having a debate between the two of them seems kind of pointless and silly to me. But that's, again, just me. So where was I? Oh yeah, why Nolan's a hack. Where do I begin with this? You know what? Let's go with Batman because that's a fine example of why I think he's a hack. Because here's the thing: he doesn't make either a faithful adaptation of Batman nor a good movie in all three of the Batman films. Now, look at the first film, for example. The first film has a huge major problem, which gets even worse the more you watch it later on. And the problem is that the films try to dabble with this thing called, you might have heard of it. I don't like saying this word, terrorism. True. I don't want to bring this up, mind you, but the Nolan Batman films literally deal with terrorism in like every single one of them. The first film's bad guy, which I totally zoned out the name of, but it was Liam Neeson's character. He's a terrorist. And then literally they bring out the same plot in the last film, and even with the Joker, they made him semi-terrorist. And the problem is it doesn't make a lick of sense when you think about it. Because I don't get why terrorists do the things they do, and I'm not even pretending that I understand that shit. But if terrorists wanted to disturb people, why hate a city that's considered shit? Well, think about it. In the third film, terrorists basically overrun and take over Gotham, and basically the country doesn't give a fuck. They let Gotham take care of itself. It's like, oh, you've been invaded. Okay, bye. See you later. Got rid of that piece of shit. Yay, let's party. That's like the whole nation because Gotham's literally left on its own for no logical reason, and it kind of misses the point of terrorists trying to strike terror. Like, how are you going to strike terror if you're going to hit a place called Nowheresville that nobody gives a fuck about? And if they did anything to, no one would be like, the most you get is maybe it doesn't make any sense. Man, I really don't want to talk about this topic, but And we're not even talking about the crescendo of absurdity and cheapness that is The Dark Knight, which is actually probably the worst of the three films. Well, actually, I don't know. The third one's bad too. Okay, they're all encompassingly bad, but the main problem is when they're trying to adapt the character of Batman, they try to focus on this charactered version of essentially Bruce Wayne, which is a huge problem because Bruce Wayne isn't a character. See, the great thing about Batman is it's the exact opposite of any other superhero. With every superhero, you have the alter ego, which is the real person, and then the costume guy with whoever the name of, like Spider-Man to Peter Parker and Superman to Clark Kent. But in the case of Batman, it's almost the opposite. Batman is the main character. Batman. Bruce Wayne is literally the costume, the disguise. So to actually make it so much more conventional by trying to make Bruce Wayne a character is problematic. Then on top of that, you do one of the worst sins in the third film by making Batman give up. You don't do that. It's fucking Batman. Batman never gives up. I don't care if he lost Robin or Batgirl and he was left alone with a wounded leg, he would still do his shit because he's fucking Batman. It's all he knows how to do. It does not make sense to make Batman do something that's, not Batman. And I know some people will give the excuse of realism, but think about this for a second. If the films are trying to be realistic, why be set in a fictional city called Gotham? Why did they set the films in Chicago since that's where they filmed them at? That would have been more realistic. It doesn't make sense to have a fictional city that's basically just Chicago and then not literally just call it Chicago instead of a fictional city if you're trying to be realistic. So, yeah. And I don't know. But that's not the worst that Nolan gets with his films because Inception and what was the other one? Interstellar and Dunkirk are 10 times worse. And I'm going to get into that. I think an encompassing problem when we delve into why Nolan sucks is kind of because he delves into genres he doesn't really get or care about. I don't even know what he cares about other than ramping up something happening. Like, I think that's the only thing he knows how to do, mixed in with tiny jump cuts, because, ooh, look, we're in one time and then another, and it's all going to link together at the end, because that's artistic and not, like, been done before or anything. Anywho, true. The big problem with the film Inception is it doesn't make a damn bit of sense. Again, you have... Think about this. The Dream Machine, which I'm just going to call it Dream Machine. I don't know the actual name of it, but I call it the Dream Machine. But this Dream Machine would have cost a fortune to make. It would have cost billions, if not trillions of dollars. So if you're going to invent a Dream Machine, what would you use that for? Torture? Why would you do that? If you wanted to torture somebody, wouldn't you just do actual torture? I mean, the only way a dream-like machine could work is either for three reasons that I can think of on the top of my head. Either one, as a form of entertainment, which would be the most likable reason for making a dream machine, as a form of actual mind control, which, of course, any big power would want, and or to actually read the inner thoughts of the mind, maybe? Question mark? And that's about it. Like, I can't think of another reason why you would invent a dream machine, and the reason this film doesn't even explain why the dream machine is made. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to be a heist film. But then there's a whole problem that the dreams themselves are just not really that much of a dream. I mean, the most that ever happens is to get a few cities that bend over and some halls flip and turn. But even in most of the dreams, there's a reason why every little scene happens. Like when the water floods in at the beginning of the film, overflows everyone. And yeah, the thing is with science fiction, although you can make very grand, exaggerated kind of stuff that happens, science fiction has to at the very least seem plausible. And Inception doesn't do that, and Interstellar's even worse. Because with Interstellar, I don't even know how to... Okay, with Interstellar, you basically have NASA, who for some reason has gone into hiding for no real reason, and don't know their shit, so they hire a farmer who's super smart for some reason, who they try to explain why he's a farmer by saying, well, we have to make so and so forced into this position because we're repeating the whole Dust Bowl thing from the 30s. But the Dust Bowl thing didn't force people into certain jobs. It just made most people broke because it was during the Depression. So I'm very confused. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it have made more sense if he was a scientist, but he couldn't get much money because he was broke and most people were broke? That would have at least worked in contrary to this Dust Bowl thing. But yeah, the whole NASA being secret, the whole... How are you supposed to get into something that's that fantastic and not really fitting for the genre of science fiction? And then there's what I think is the best example of the Nolan's shit and the whole point of his ramping. Nolan's most recent film, what was it called? Dunkirk, which is awful. And I'm going to explain that. First, there's the soundtrack. Now, I don't like to get in soundtracks often, but here's the thing. A soundtrack's purpose is basically to do two things. One, it's to actually enhance the story and whatever emotion or theme that's being presented visually. And two, it needs to be subtle enough that it's not too in the way. The greatest soundtracks manage to do both these things while still being great on its own to listen to. Now, the problem with Dunkirk soundtrack is it's nothing but noises. It's like... That's like the whole freaking album in a nutshell, screaming in your ears for hours on end. And I don't mind them going with an ambient sound, mind you, but you can do it in a way that's, subtle. It's like the whole music there is to hammer in the suspense because they can't do it visually. And the problem with the suspense is literally the problem with them trying to do action or suspense in the film is very obvious. One, there's no sense of danger because we have no idea who this villain is. It does not work in a freaking war movie to not know who the villain is, to not know where they're at, and to not know how fucked up the good guys are being outnumbered. It's like, imagine if you're watching a version of an Alamo and you only see the troops in the Alamo. You never see the massive Mexican troops that came to fight them. That takes away from any sense of threat or danger or being, overtaken in any way, which, with a film that's literally about people trapped in the beaches being slowly overtaken by Nazis, it doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't do that. It's just, on top of that, the film is jarring as fuck. If you watch just the first few minutes of Dunkirk, you have, how films will have this opening title sequence like, the person ate his pants, said an ominous or something like that. And instead of doing just the title credit thing and then go on with the picture, no. And then they'll have a first shot of the person like doing something on screen. Then it cuts back to that person, and it keeps going back and forth like that. You barely get into the scene before a jump cuts back to that, which is jarring as fuck. And it gets even worse. One of the greatest examples of how shitty Dunkirk is the airplane crash scene. Now, here's the problem with the airplane crash scene, okay? Earlier in the film, you see a plane crash, and this other guy who's backing this plane, the other pilot up, he checks on him in flight, and he sees him waving his hands, like something like that. He's like, okay, he's okay. And then he rides off without realizing that he's in danger, without realizing what's really going on. But then, jump cut, we don't see the rest of the pilot scene for like another 40 minutes. And then when we finally see it, again, we realize that he actually wasn't waving goodbye, that he was okay. He was actually waving, help, I'm trapped. Now, this is the greatest, no, not the greatest, the worst thing you could do. Like, okay, imagine the scene from Psycho, right, with the knife. So imagine, the knife's being raised, it's going to that shower curtain, and it's being raised, and then jump cut to the beginning of the movie, and then at the 30-minute mark, boom, boom, boom. It's jarring as fuck, and it takes away from the suspense. Like, why? Why would you do that? I honestly don't get why people like Nolan at all. Like, He's not faithful when he does an adaptation, and even when he does do something original, it's not really good. And his films are really lazy, either putting in some pseudo political messages in there to make the films look more mature or artistic than they really are, or doing a bunch of jump cuts and tiny whininess that doesn't even make sense. Like with Dunkirk. Why did Dunkirk even need to have all the tiny whininess? It doesn't even make sense. You already are jumping from one place to from one person, one location to another person, one location. Why make it more messier by jumping in different places in time at the same time? And the only time I think it kind of worked was when the guy was like reading this speech from Churchill and the airplane was landing and something like that. That kind of works, but outside of that, the rest of the film does not work in that respect. And even the sequences, the action sequences, or the story itself, it just doesn't work. We don't really get that much of a sense of danger, mainly because of the jarring, tiny editing. We don't really get the sense, for example, that the troops are completely cooped and claustrophobic. We don't get the sense of an enemy coming closer and closer while good men are trying to hold them back. We don't get a good sense of any of this. How are we supposed to get a sense of danger when... Anyways, those... yeah. I don't understand why people like Nolan as a director. I don't get it. Maybe a couple of his earlier films are better, but I've already seen like 5 different movies from him. The Batman films, the Interception and Interstellar, and hell, even Dunkirk. I have seen enough, and I just don't think he's that good. If you like him, it's fine. Whatever. But yeah. Well, now what? I guess I could leave. I could leave. I wonder if anything I said made any sense. Probably didn't. Oh wait, I could do this though. Woo! Nah. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. I probably should have done that. I'm sorry. That wasn't funny. I know. I laugh at silly things that don't make sense. Oh shit. Oh no. Okay. Phew. I was checking out something there. I'm gonna see if this is working, and we'll try this again sometime. Later.